welcome to the Women Waves podcast. We've got some great women on with us today. We've got the amazing Jayne Butler, we've got Farheen Khan, and we've got Rebecca Jewett from the Girls Network. So if you all want to tell us a little bit about yourselves, Jayne, if you want to start.
Absolutely. So I was just saying, what a mouthful, Jayne Butler. So most people call me SJ, or
SJ.
SJ, yeah, or Jayne if I'm in trouble. And I'm an acting coach, which basically means that I'm there to support actors wherever they are on their journey, whether it's at the beginning or whether they've been established for a long time and they're looking to sort of try something new. And I once heard it described as being like a good bra, in that, I'm there to make you look good, to support you, but you can't usually see me. So that's what I do.
Love that. That's amazing. Cool. And Farheen, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. So I'm a final year A-level student and I'm working towards studying law at university this September, which is a huge milestone and a different chapter in my life. It's something I look forward to and I'm very, very passionate about, but also very, very nervous about as well. As well as being a student, I'm a current mentor at the Metropolitan Police and I'm the Girls Network ambassador. I do a lot of work to help raise awareness. For example, being a mentor at the Metropolitan Police has led me to work with a senior associate of the Met Police, and I'm actually mentoring someone who's senior than me, which is absolutely incredible, and it's something I've never expected before. And we're creating this social change, and it's something I'm passionate about. I'm an individual who is super, super expressive. I love to advocate things, and I love to be expressive in the way I feel is necessary. I strongly believe in empowerment and this idea of personal development, because as a person right now, I can tell you that I'm not the girl I used to be a few years back. I've definitely changed as a person, and I'm honestly so grateful that I have changed for the better. And I think it's mainly because of the opportunities that I've been taking. And this is why I strongly believe in mental and psychological, emotional development, really. And it's just this idea of personal development, which I strongly believe in. And I know that everyone has potential and that you're limitless and you can basically achieve anything you want to, but you need to realize your genuine worth. And that's something I strongly live by. And being an ambassador at the Girls Network has been the best opportunity that I have taken. And it's just a lifelong membership of being an ambassador. And I really hope to mentor young girls like myself in the future. And I want to provide them with the basic essentials, which I wish I knew at the age of 14 when I was low in confidence. But look at me now, doing things I thought I would never do, like public speaking. But I really enjoy what I do, and I just really want to create a change, and I really want to be expressive, and I want to advocate strong and empowering messages.
Wowza.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
It's incredible. I wish I put my priorities first.
Oh, I love it. And we've also got Rebecca Jewett from the Girls Network. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Rebecca.
Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca. Wow, what a thing to follow, Farheen. I'm Rebecca and I am the network manager for Sussex for the Girls Network. So I'm part of a team of network managers, and in Sussex, I manage the mentoring programs we run in schools, mostly in Brighton and in the surrounding areas. And so my work involves matching girls who are 14 to 19 with a professional woman mentor, and supporting them across the year of their mentoring journey and beyond. And as Farheen says, we don't just finish at the end of the year, but I get to become ambassadors. So I get to play a part in supporting our ambassadors as well. So that's
Amazing.
me.
Oh, love it.
So brilliant.
It's going to be a great episode, I can tell
I
already.
can feel it in my bones.
We had someone on the other week, actually, that was also doing the police scheme, Farheen. It's really interesting what you guys are doing.
Yes, definitely. This police scheme is something that is revolutionary. It's something that draws a lot of attention, actually. And this is a pilot scheme, meaning that me and the two other girls, we're the first of the people to be doing this. And it's actually incredible because this has never, ever happened before. And we're the first to do this, which means that a lot of girls in the future will be able to do this. So this is all just a part of a learning curve, I guess. But it's something that I've never actually imagined doing. Like, who knew a girl from the deprived borough of Tower Hamlets could be working with the Metropolitan Police? It's something that is so incredible, and it's definitely something I am hugely proud of, I would say. Working with the Met Police has really drawn my attention to things in society, and it's made me look into things in more depth, and it has deepened my horizons on a huge scale. I'm so glad that I am mentoring someone senior. This is a new skill that I have developed throughout my journey of mentoring. It's something that I have never done before because myself, I've been mentored by someone senior, but I have never been a mentor myself. So it's definitely something I'm really enjoying, and it's been going on for a few months now. And me and my mentee from the Metropolitan Police, we are planning on creating this social change, and my main focus is domestic violence and abuse. It's definitely a sensitive topic, and I know there's a lot of stigma towards it, but it doesn't stop me, and it won't stop anyone else from raising awareness about it, because it still happens in society. And this is why I have planned to create a podcast with my mentee. I really want to create this change. Domestic violence is something I'm so passionate about, and I'm super grateful to have had this form of good communication with my mentee. Being able to connect with someone senior is a skill in itself, and I'm so, so, so happy to have my mentee by my side. And I just can't wait to see where this podcast takes me.
Well, you've started brilliantly, and I think the Girls Network have given you an amazing platform to do so. So that's amazing. I think it's just brilliant having this mentorship with young women, being able to, especially from where you come from and different areas of London as well. It's great to get your views on you growing up in the area, because then it will give them an idea as to what they need to change or add or anything like that. So brilliant. So, Sarah, tell us about your journey into becoming an acting coach, and what does it entail?
Oh, goodness me, what a big question. I'm going to try and keep this relatively short and sweet. But basically, I started off as a kid being really, really shy. So shy I wouldn't even talk to anyone. And I'm an only child, and I think my mum panicked and was like, oh my goodness, she's just not going to be able to cope out in the world. And so sent me to acting lessons at 5. And from there, a complete love and a passion sort of started. And I was really lucky. I grew up just outside of Birmingham, where there was tons of opportunities that, back in the day were funded as well, which meant that lots of people could do them. And I started to find my voice through wearing lots of different masks from, I suppose being a very quiet child, I watched the world a lot, and I watched a lot of behaviour. And gradually as I grew up, and I sort of trained initially to be an actress, and sort of went through the traditional route of drama school and working after. But all the way through, I'd run workshops, I'd been mentored myself by some phenomenal women, and I'd always been fascinated by the process. I had books and books and books, notebooks from being like 12 years old that I'd written down every exercise that I'd done, that I still remember and I still use to this day. And I remember being at drama school and being so much more interested in other people's journeys in a way and how they made those discoveries. So it was sort of an inevitability. And then, keep it short and sweet, Sarah. I've always sort of coached on the side. I'd always run workshops, and a friend of mine was working as a casting assistant when they were casting a film called Goodbye Christopher Robin for Fox Searchlight, and gave me a call saying, do you know what, we've got the shortlisted boys and we'd love someone to come in and work with them just to get them up to speed so they can deal with the final auditions, where all of the pressure's going to be on, Donald Gleason's going to be there, he's playing his dad, all of that stuff. So I said, yeah, sure, I'll come in, it'd be a great adventure. So I did that, and I had a brilliant time. And they said, would you like to come and coach on the movie? And I've learnt since that the best thing you can ever do to opportunities is say yes, because you never know where it's going to lead you. So I said yes. And off the back of that, it started, not just sort of coaching privately, but coaching on films. And so after that, I did another film for Fox Searchlight called Tolkien, and then a Disney movie and so on and so forth. And I've just been very lucky that so far the phone has rung, and I've been able to continue working. So that's how it came about, from saying yes, basically.
That's so good. That is a motto in life, isn't it? Saying yes.
100%.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely. I think staying open and just being willing to kind of jump in and take a risk. Sometimes it's only then that we make discoveries, isn't it? In the acting world, but ultimately, the reason why I love acting is because it's the pursuit of truth, it's the pursuit of humanity, and so it's true for everything.
Yeah,
definitely. How do you find so you do acting yourself as well, or you have done? How do you find the difference between teaching it and actually acting yourself?
Goodness me. Well, I'm a great believer that you've got to practice what you preach. And I think it's really important to understand that whenever we're putting ourselves in the spotlight, whether that's acting or whether that's, going up for a job interview or speaking up in a meeting, literally being heard above the noise around us. I think we have to understand what that feels like in order to guide people in the best way possible. And I've been there. I've stood in front of a camera, I've stood in front of rooms, and I've felt my knees knock together and my stomach turn to jelly and my mouth go dry and imposter syndrome shouting loudly in my head. And I think it's really important to remember that so that you can support the people that you're working with in the best way possible. Everything comes from empathy. And from there, you can start to troubleshoot the best ways to deal with it. But it always has to come from an understanding, I think.
Farheen, you are into mindfulness and learning how to be mindful. So has that helped you on your journey, or has it taken you from a place of being shy, or were you ever shy or anything like that?
I think, just like Sarah, I was very self-conscious, very shy actually. I had low self-esteem. I just wasn't really comfortable talking to a big crowd of people, or people in general. I felt really shy, like, when you would order food at a restaurant or talk to someone at a shop, I just wasn't able to do something like that. Meeting new people was so scary. But as I grew older, I realized how important it is to gain confidence. And it's not something that, it's not something you'd wake up one day and you'd gain like suddenly. I think confidence takes time, and with mindfulness, it's definitely helped. Like, I have a habit of journaling, and I've been journaling for about 5 years now. So from like the beginning of my teen years, I've been journaling. And it's nice. It's a good practice for mindfulness, I think. And it's just nice to explore my thoughts in it. And I think with my journals, each of them represent something different about myself. There's a huge change in my mental health in the journals. You can see like how my emotions sort of change. You can see the confidence as well, the different opportunities. I would write that down. But mindfulness is something I practice quite strongly. And ever since I did the speech at JP Morgan for the Girls Network celebration event in 2019 in front of a big crowd, that was like my big achievement for me. That's where my confidence hit. And then that's when I realized that I can do things that I was initially scared of originally before. And it just made me realize that I have potential and I can do this. And even if it's such a risk, I can take it and I should do it. But journaling has definitely helped me overcome those sort of fears. And it's made me realize that confidence is a thing that you build up slowly, and it takes time. You just have to trust yourself, be kind to yourself, and just know your worth. And with the journals, I realized how self-conscious I was before. But now, gradually, I can see that I have realized my worth. I have put my priorities first, ignored the hate, and just went with the flow and did things that would be best suited for myself. And I'm just so proud to say that it's been a tough sort of struggle to gain confidence. But I'm just so happy that I've finally managed to gain that confidence, and now I can do things that I would be scared of doing when I was 11 years old. But now I'm 17, looking back on the things that I've missed. I do regret not doing them because of my confidence at the time. But I'm just so happy that I've got new opportunities coming my way, and I will definitely take them, even if it's worth the risk.
Full of golden nuggets here.
I know. It's incredible. What would you say, Farheen, to anyone listening that's thinking about starting to do journaling? Like, what would you say? What did you kind of get from it? Would you go back and reread what you'd written, or is it kind of like you just to get your feelings out?
I think with journaling, it's just. I think you don't need to necessarily start at a specific place. You can start absolutely anywhere. You can just start off with, writing down your events, emotions you feel, but it's just a really good way for mindfulness and, tracking your mental health, and I think it's just a really good thing to reflect on. I see it as a form of gratitude, as a form of self-reflection. I also tend to write about positive affirmations, tell myself I'm beautiful, tell myself I'm strong. So when I'm having a low day, I can look back at that and just remind myself of my worth, because there are times where I would neglect myself. When I'm so overwhelmed with work and schoolwork, it's so hard for me to take care of myself. But then when I look back at those positive affirmations, I remember my worth and I remember who I am. And then I look back at the achievements and I see, well, I've done so many things in the past before. Why am I so sad right now? I think I should, fix my crown and pick myself back up and do the things that I want to do.
Absolutely.
I love that.
So good.
I love it.
Do you know what?
So
I think that's brilliant. I quite often get people I work with to write down anything positive that's been said to them recently, so it doesn't matter if it's massive or small, but just write it down, because it becomes fact then. And you can't deny it later on. And I love this idea that Farheen's sort of just gifted about affirmations as well, and tying that in. Because all of this, not only can you chart your journey, but it is just this little reminder on those days that we all have, let's face it, where we're not feeling at our best, or we're not feeling at our most powerful, to just go, actually, you've got this. You've got this.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's so easy to forget as well, isn't it? Like, especially the good times, or if you're feeling good about yourself, and you can easily forget those things. So writing it down is always a good way to remind yourself of those times.
The industry is constantly changing in terms of the content being made. So do you feel like your style of coaching has changed over the years?
Great question. Yes, definitely. Yeah, I think it absolutely has. I think ultimately the heart of everything that we do, like I said to you before, is truth and humanity. And the thing that links it all is, we've spoken about this before, Alicia, but this feeling of the what ifs that can quite often get in the way. What if I'm not good enough? What if I forget the lines? What if they don't like what I do? What if I'm too tall, too short, too whatever? And I think one thing that I have noticed is, with the increase in social media, the increase in people being on screens more, interestingly, it hasn't made people more comfortable in front of a camera. If anything, I think it's made them more self-conscious, certainly as actors. So in terms of my approach to coaching, one of the things that I find quite often I'm having to do is encourage actors to be a little bit more private in public, to allow the camera in as a friend, as an observer, rather than as something which you present to and present in front of, rather than it being this mirror that we can constantly look into with selfie view, to just allow it into our thoughts and into our minds and make friends with it. So that's one of the ways I think it's changed. I think also there is so much more scope for projects now. With the wonders of the streaming platforms, we've got such variety. We've also got genres that are mixing in really, really exciting ways. And so the demands on every actor are totally different. You know, I'll work with an actor on a casting on Monday for the Powerpuff Girls, and on Friday for a new big sort of horror comedy, and you're sort of going, there is such variety. And so there has to be an adaptability, there has to be a playfulness, but there also has to be a knowledge about what's out there. And so one of my favourite things to do is to just compile a sort of a watch list from everyone that I meet, because it means that I start watching stuff outside of my comfort zone, but it also means that the people that I work with do as well, so that when something comes in, they're not suddenly at a loss at how to pitch this, where to come in at, but they can sort of go, oh yeah, I've got a bit of a feel for this person's work. I've got a little bit of a feel for this style of thing, because I think it's just knowing what story you're in, basically. But you've got to do your research in order to do that.
Do you have like a favourite type of character or genre, or that's like style?
Oh goodness me. I mean, it changes weekly, as I'm sure it does for everyone. You know, it sort of changes on what I've watched the night before. But I think one thing that I've always loved, and I always come back to, is I love work that sort of starts potentially from improvisation, or sort of that's been developed from the ground up with the actors. I really love that style of working, almost as sort of a documentary approach at points. Work by Deborah Granick, who did The Winter's Bone, work by Shane Meadows, who did This Is England, Mike Lee, who did Happy Go Lucky, Secrets and Lies, all of that stuff, which is very much also about people. It's got the humans at the heart of it, and they're not sort of big dramatic stories with huge explosions. They're very much about the mundane, but also the specificity of sort of what makes us human and the relationships that we have. So that's the stuff that gets me really excited, I think.
Love that.
Love a character you can sink your teeth into.
Absolutely.
It's exactly that what you're saying as well. It's like, I guess with improv you can kind of, it's so real to the actor. That's kind of, that's what's naturally come to them. So then you're able to like unpick that because it's such a like natural thing for them.
I think so. And I think it comes down to ownership, and ownership of a character is a really big thing. The actor has to feel that connection. And sometimes it's very close to you and sometimes it's very far away. And, anything that's been improvised, when it comes to shooting it, there's an element of refinement that has to happen, but there's a freedom that comes in the process that I think is incredibly exciting. And when I look at the work that I love, it usually has started there. And I just think ownership, coming back to what you asked me before, Alicia, is one thing that I think is so important for all actors. And one of the things that I notice more and more as an area of focus, I suppose. And I guess, Farheen, you find that as well with the work that you do, that this sense of ownership, that you've got to own the thing that you're passionate about. You've got to own your space in the room when you walk in there and you give that presentation. And when you do, you can sort of truly relax and be yourself then.
Yeah, I've definitely felt that way. That sense of ownership definitely came from me delivering that speech at the Girls Network celebration event. Like, I went in the room and I knew I'm doing something to empower young girls. And if I, deliver my speech about my journey, or potentially encourage and inspire other girls. So I took that ownership and I took the stage and I just gave it my all. And it was just something I was so proud to do. As well as that, I've taken ownership in, mentoring my mentee at this. She's a senior associate at the Metropolitan Police. It's something I never thought I would be able to do. At first, I found it quite daunting and scary, like mentoring someone who's older than me, more experienced. But now that I'm taking ownership, I'm planning my sessions, I'm doing everything I can, staying on top of everything. I'm seeing that, that's that form of ownership. And I think it's something you just develop over time. And it is a good skill to have, and it's just, I think it's so professional, and it's just a nice idea it's a nice thing for people to see that you're taking ownership, and it just shows how you've got everything together, and there is nothing that's going to stop you from doing what you want to do. And it's just great that you can take ownership of your priorities and everything you want to achieve.
How are your sessions with your mentee? So, like, what type of things do you cover?
I actually had a session with her today, just before this session. So it was the third session I had, and I think it's going really, really well. Like, we're both, putting our experiences together. It's really nice seeing her dedication and hard work into this. I understand that, it's quite hard. Like, as a work of the Metropolitan Police, it's really hard seeing, everything that's been going on with the events. And it really makes me feel upset that regardless of everything that she's been going through, she's still, putting her hard work into this mentoring program. And it's just so nice to see that she's dedicated. And I think it's going really well. We're both, keeping on top of things, emailing each other. But it's just going really well. And I hope to, get something out of it. And kind of show this off, but in a humble way, and show people that I can do things, and I've always stood by the idea of making the impossible the possible. This is something I thought would be impossible, but now I'm making it possible. So even though it was a scary feeling at first, the idea of me fulfilling this dream of working with the Met is just an amazing thing, and I just can't wait to get something out of it.
Well, you're getting the podcast out of it, aren't you? That's amazing. Have you got a name for it? When you think you're going to start? When we can hear it?
I actually don't have a name for it just yet. We're still in the process of creating an action plan and brainstorming solutions. But my main question, and what my podcast will be about, is how as a society we have the abilities to raise awareness for domestic violence amongst victims of men and women. I feel like it's a sensitive topic to talk about, as it is a societal issue. It's definitely happening in society, but the idea of men and women being victims, like sometimes society doesn't really think about men being victims, and men don't really feel encouraged enough to talk about their experiences only because they feel embarrassed and they feel like it's not the norms of society for a man to be a victim. And I just want to create that awareness that it can happen to both men and women. And if we don't speak up about something that's happening in society now, there's not anything we could really do, but we need to create action towards it. I really think that a podcast is beneficial only because people can actually listen to and take action from it. I've heard of many campaigns, documentaries, but creating a podcast that shows the statistics of men and women, but also if you look at it from the perspective of cases during lockdown, I feel like there's been a lot of cases during lockdown, and how victims feel so trapped in their own home, and it's just really sad to see. But I just really hope that I can advocate some sort of justice around this sensitive topic, and it's just something I'm so passionate about, and I don't want anyone to feel as if they can't reach out and seek support, because there are so many places you can go to for support. But I just really hope that this podcast that I create inspires a lot of people, brings people back up on their feet, and just makes them realize that they can learn from this negative experience, learn that they're strong, and that they can get through this.
Rebecca, how did you start getting involved with the Girls Network? How did you start working there?
So I haven't been here very long, actually. I joined in September, and my background before coming to the Girls Network was in mental health. I'd worked in mental health for about 7 years, and I'd done lots of volunteering before that. But I'd worked predominantly with adults, but it was the little bits of opportunity that I got to work with young people that really, really interested me. And when the job came up at the Girls Network, that I was like, that's the job I've got to have. Put lots of effort into the interview and things, and as Farheen and Jayne said yes to it, thinking, I don't know if this is for me, but actually, like, if I can do this, but I'm just going to say yes and go for it. And what really excited me about the opportunity to work at the Girls Network was because the work I'd done in mental health with adults, I'd never really done the kind of clinical side of things. I knew that being like a nurse or something like that just wasn't me, but the things that really interested me were the relationships that people had in their lives, and the kind of like things that they were involved in, whether that was like work or a hobby that really meant much to them, and the kind of things that they like occupied their time with, and what made them, what was meaningful to them. So the idea of coming to the Girls Network and it being about relationships, that our mentees, our lovely mentees, would have a relationship with a professional woman who could do that support over a longer period of time than often we had with the people I worked with, around their self-esteem, around equipping and helping them support them to grow skills that would serve them for the rest of their lives, was what really excited me. And I think even now that the bit of the job that I love most is the conversations that mentors and mentees have around, what is it that makes you, and actually what do you have to bring to the world, and what change do you want to see, and how can you make it happen, and finding those opportunities for girls to have their voices heard. So that was my background before the Girls Network, and as I say, I've been here since September, so a bit over 6 months, and absolutely loving it. It's the best job I've ever done.
How did you find, because you were saying you worked with adults mostly in your previous job, how did you find like coming to work with younger girls? Because I don't know about you, but me and Leash always talk about how like we're just mind blown every week when we meet people like you, Farheen, who's like so young but also just, I don't know, so wise.
Yeah.
And like how was that experience
so
for you when you
aware
first
as
kind
well.
of So aware, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Real eye opener. As I said, I hadn't done that much work with young people, but little bits, enough that I got really excited whenever those bits of work came along. And yeah, to come to the Girls Network and to, have my full-time work around being with young people. And as you say, I work with girls, up to 19, but some of the girls I work with as young as 13, and I am blown away by the things that our mentees come out with, like their awareness, they're just so, aware and, invested in what's going on around them, and they have opinions, and some mentees come and they've got really strong opinions, and that our work is to support them, to have them heard and to make change. And for some of our mentees, they come and they're very, very kind of quiet, and they're a bit of a mystery. You wonder what's going on for them, and actually it can take a while, but it's the amazing thing of having a mentor to be able to work with them like over a year is that during that time you see, it's kind of like a chrysalis and a butterfly, like the amazing stuff that can come out of that relationship, in terms of the mentee saying, actually, I do have a voice in here, and with the support that I can really begin to say what's going on. So yeah, absolutely, like blown away by how politically, socially aware young people are. And I don't think because, when I wasn't working directly with young people and was working with adults, I wasn't sure that I really heard that, like just in my day-to-day, everyday life, walking around. And when I talk to my friends and other colleagues, previous colleagues, about the work I'm doing and how, as you said, how aware young people are these days, they're really surprised to hear it. And I think, again, I'm like, that they're not hearing it perhaps in their everyday life if they're not directly in contact with young people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we learn so much every week from the girls we've met, like yourself, Farheen, because it's just amazing seeing and really positive to see such awareness and openness to everything that's going on in the world, and you're so happy to fight for what you want, and you've got these amazing you've got intuitions that I don't think I ever had when I was younger. So it's just wonderful to see. It's so lovely. Sarah Jayne, when you get a client that you need to coach, do you find any difference from the adults to the younger generation?
Yes, exactly this, actually, interestingly. Yeah, very often. And that goes, right down the scale to 5-year-olds. I will still maintain one of the best actors I ever worked with was Will Tilston, who was 9 when we shot Goodbye Christopher Robin, because of his openness to the world and his bravery and his willingness to share his insight and his thoughts. And I think we need to be encouraging these conversations. I'm so heartened that these conversations are happening, and that there is a clarity, there's a curiosity, and there's a hunger, I think, to provoke and see change. There's a real awareness of the world in which they live. And I think, as an acting coach, that's something that I'm constantly trying to encourage people to do. One thing I've really noticed over the years is that so often, certainly for perhaps older clients, it's very easy for us to get our head down, to put our headphones in, to avoid eye contact, to look at the phone when we're talking, and essentially disconnect. And actually, interestingly, I find with younger people, you'd think it was the opposite, but they actually seem very often much more connected, much more willing to look you in the eye and have that conversation, and much more hungry for it. I think we're all going to be much more hungry for it after lockdown sort of finally ends. But I definitely do, and I think it's something that I will champion, and I'm delighted to see and hear on the podcast as well when I've listened to the previous episodes.
Definitely.
So Sarah, can I ask a very random question compared to what we've just said?
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, as an actress / actor, whatever I want to be, how does one find their acting tick, and how do we snub it?
What do you mean by your acting tick?
So, for example, like if I was having a conversation with you and I maybe like twitched my eye and said like I said before I was meant to.
And how do you get rid of it? Well, I'm a great believer. Lots of actors hate this, but I'm a great believer that you sort of have to watch to realise. So you've got, for starters, I think you've got to record yourself to be able to notice these tics, because these tics very often, they're tensions that sit in our body. They're not necessarily, they're the little subconscious clues as to what's going on the inside. And that can be really, really interesting, actually, when we're filming. It can be really, really interesting on camera. It's just great to be able to switch it on and switch it off. So I think you've got to be aware of it. Sometimes it's about asking people that are very close to you, who perhaps have picked up on this. But also I think you can learn a lot from just getting comfortable with the camera, having it switched on for a while you're having a conversation, perhaps over Zoom with a friend. You'll forget after a while that the camera's on, but then watch it back and see if there is any tension that creeps in over particular points. Are there any moments where you get nervous or a little bit defensive? How does that read? And the best way to get rid of it, in truth, is to breathe. Breathe. Because quite often these little tics, these little things that are the internal voice being shown in a physical manifestation, they come because we're disconnecting from the thought. And we need to come back to our inner journal, I suppose, that Farheen was talking about, this little conversation that we're having with ourselves, and go, breathe through it. If we're breathing, we're thinking, and if we're thinking, we're in control. So one of the biggest things, it sounds so simple. It's the first thing we do in the world. It's the last thing we do in the world, but it's very easy under pressure for us to forget to breathe. And it's one of the best ways you can start to gradually ease it out. That would be my advice. It's
almost like I know it's obviously linked to acting, but in a way it also links to meditation, and it's that can help so many situations, not just when you're on set or if you're behind camera. Absolutely. I think all of this work, all of the work I do as an acting coach, it's not just for those moments, it's for everyday life. It's for the difficult conversations that we all have to have, whether that's with, a parent, whether that's with a colleague, whatever that is. It's for any moment where we feel in the spotlight, under pressure. And that doesn't have to be under a big set spotlight. That can be just in a very bright room talking to your colleagues as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So important. Is that a motto you also live by, Farheen and Rebecca?
I think I do believe in that, but I think it kind of depends on the environment you live in. Not live in, but more environments that you come across and explore in. So, like for mindfulness, I like to practice breathing, but in an environment, just, feeling the environment around me, seeing the nature sort of around me, feeling my presence in the environment, the way my posture is, the way I'm standing, things I can hear, all my 5 senses, and just breathing. And I think it's really important to also listen to playlists and podcasts like Headspace. I think Headspace is really good for meditation. Just, getting your breathing back on track and doing different exercises and different timings really helps as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I would very much echo what you said, Farheen. I always think, sometimes I feel like whether it's with the people I used to work with or with friends or family around me, that often kind of what would cause that anxiety or lack of self-worth is where there's kind of scarcity, whether that was like a real scarcity or a sense of scarcity. And the thing that amazes me about the breath is it's something that's always available to us. It's always there. It's always something that we can tap into. It's not something that's taken away. And that's what I love about it, is that it can be that real anchor. And it was wonderful to hear you talk earlier, Farheen, about journaling, because I'm a big journaler as well. And one of my favourite little journaling exercises that someone once taught me is this idea of a sit spot. I don't know if you've ever heard of this. But the idea of a sit spot is that for however long you choose, and I generally do it for a season, is that you find a physical spot that you go to at the same time. So, for example, over the autumn, I went to this spot in my local park and would sit there every morning, same time, and you would see how things would change around you at that each time every morning. And I have to say, like, during that experience, there was that real mindfulness. You think about things you hear around you and see around you, and I would make notes of those. How does the air feel on my skin and things? But actually what surprised me was how much I was really aware of my breath there and how centering that was, for it to be able to slow down, whereas usually my mornings would start kind of a bit frazzled, a bit all over the place. You wouldn't even be kind of conscious of your breath. And so I think it being available to you, it being that anchor, is something that is really powerful if you have that awareness of it. It can be so powerful as Sarah and Jayne said, in whatever situation you're facing.
Farheen, I wanted to ask you, what would you say to anyone that's listening right now that is thinking about joining the Girls Network, but they're not sure?
I think for me, it was an opportunity that I was given. It wasn't necessarily me, reaching out and taking this opportunity. I was so lucky to actually get this opportunity given to me when I was just in year 10, thinking about my GCSE options. And at that time, I was so self-conscious, as I said before, but I was just, I was always in my own sort of bubble, really shy, didn't want to take up any opportunities, felt so I don't know, I just wasn't motivated enough to do anything. And I think the best advice I would give to someone who is about to, join the Girls Network is just to go for it and just be yourself, because you gradually learn so much about yourself whilst you're on the Girls Network journey. You learn so much about yourself. Like, from being mentored, I learned about the different career pathways and things like I never thought really existed in the career industry. But I also explored a lot about myself, and I understood that I can possibly do anything I could, but it's just personal development, that idea of realizing your own worth and understanding that you have the elements in you to be a strong person. It's just you putting that forward and taking action. So I would definitely recommend any girls who are going to take part in the Girls Network to go for it and to do it. I actually had a few girls reach out to me on LinkedIn again recently about the Girls Network, saying how I got involved, and I happily told them my story. And a lot of girls were saying, well, I really want to get involved. I don't know if my school is going to, offer the program. And I said, well, I'm happy to talk with anyone at the Girls Network just to see how they've, changed things this year. I know a lot of girls have been mentored virtually, but I think definitely take the opportunity, because you learn so much about yourself, and you will soon uncover your hidden sort of talents and skills that you have within yourself that you didn't know existed. I didn't know that I would be confident enough to do public speaking, but until I, was mentored, then became an ambassador, I realized wow, I have a passion for public speaking. I would have never done something like that before. But I guess when you're on the journey, you just gradually learn about yourself. But definitely just take the opportunity, trust the process, trust yourself, be kind to yourself, and let the magic happen.
Amazing.
It's almost like a little community, and you must have created some friendships and so many things from it. It's amazing.
Definitely, yeah.
Sarah Jayne, how does your bespoke acting coaching work?
So how does it work? Usually, like I said, I work with everyone from people that are right at the beginning of their journey, that might be, I've got a couple of people at the moment that have been in industries all their life, working, in law, in finance, in personal training, who are now looking to explore something that they never gave space to exploring when they were younger. I work with 5-year-olds to well-known, established actors, singers, comedians, and whether it's an actor who's got a casting coming up, whether it's a person looking to transition into acting from something else, or whether it's a young person looking to find their voice and sort of come back to that kind of public speaking element of it and explore their own creativity and imagination in a safe space. For everybody, it is about finding individually what gets them excited, what their passion is, and beginning that relationship of trust and that conversation. Because I believe if we can do that in an individual coaching session, then we can, coming back to what we talked about before, take the risks. We can jump right in and gradually over time build a toolkit that person, whoever they are, can take into their everyday life as well as their work as performers and artists, and hopefully, expand their understanding of the industry and the world in which, they potentially hope to inhabit.
How do you find, because you do coaching on set as well, so on the actual shoots, how do you find the difference between coaching when you're not on set or coaching on set, and how is it?
Well, usually when I'm not on set, what I'm doing is I'm working kind of in preparation for something. So there's a lot of different elements. When I'm working on a film, usually I'll come in, unlike stage, for film, you sometimes only get 2 weeks prep, and that feels like a luxury sometimes. Mm-hmm. So I will work with the actor during that prep period to go through the script, to start to encourage that element of ownership. I'll also work hand in hand with the director. So if there's something that they're very keen to build on with the actor, or maybe get the actor to a point where they feel that they can jump into big emotional scenes, that they can deal with improvisation that somebody else is going to throw at them. It's about getting them to a place where they can feel confident and in control in their choices, so that when the cameras roll, they're just ready to hit the ground running. And then throughout the shoot, I'm there to help them in the mornings, to prep them, to focus them, and I'm there to support the director on set as well. So quite often I work as a bit of a translator. So if the director is sort of having to focus on the look of the piece and on all of the different moving elements that they're having to focus on, sometimes they might say, can you get them to do this? And then I can translate it into some playable things that the actor can then explore.
That's really clever. I guess director, being on set, you can get lost in translation because of everybody's quite stressed and everybody's working to a timeline, so it can be quite confusing. I know once I had a note that was like, just be yourself. This time, just be yourself. And I was like, I'm so sorry, that did not help me in any way.
Absolutely, and that can come up quite a lot, because what does that mean? Which myself do you want me to be? And that's exactly what I'm there to do. I'm there to sort of translate that and make it into something that you actively can feel in control of and not panic about as well, because I think the actor's brain will naturally go, oh my God, they think I'm awful, I'm dreadful, we're redoing this because it's all my fault, I'm going to and of course that's not the case at all. It really, really never is. But it's very easy to let that noise get too loud. And I think quite often as a coach, it's really important to help and support that actor, because it's a very vulnerable place to be in front of a camera, giving yourself. And, if you've got somebody there, a champion, a cheerleader sort of going, I've got you, I've silently got your back. It just gives that space for them to to relax into the story a little bit more.
A lot of creative input that you have. Like when you're watching stuff back, it must feel really rewarding seeing the actors, you know, getting into character and seeing their emotions and stuff and feeling like, you know, you helped them do that.
Well, it's wonderful to be part of that collaboration. And, you know, all of the actors I work, everyone can act. Everyone can act. We're acting all the time. We're acting as a mother. We're acting as an employee. We're acting as a best friend. So it's always just about facilitating them so they keep that channel open so that they can do the best work possible. And yeah, of course, it's magic when I can watch a film and go, oh yeah, that was a little idea that I had there, or you know, oh my goodness, they hit that. They didn't realise that they could do that, and then they did, and look at this phenomenal performance. And it's just the greatest gift in the world. I'm much happier behind the camera. Being able to enable somebody else to fly, and it's magnificent when people realise their power as a performer.
And how do you manage to fit that round having a little one?
Great question. So I have a 1.5-year-old, and truthfully, I don't even know. With a very supportive husband is the truth of it, in all honesty. And also, for the majority of my son Kit's life, he's been in lockdown, poor thing. So our world has been very different during this. I've been able to work remotely, which is a sort of a new mom has been actually great, because it's meant I haven't had to be away from him for long periods or anything like that. So I've been spoiled in a lot of ways. How it works beyond, I don't know. I'm still looking for the answer. I'm still looking for the key. And I think the truth of the matter is, you just make it work somehow. When, people are remarkably supportive. I was very, very lucky. I was very pregnant on the last film that I worked on, which was the upcoming Bond movie. And that has Barbara Broccoli, who is the producer on it, a phenomenal woman who sort of guided everyone through beautifully. And also Debbie McWilliams, the casting director there. And I was so supported through that process. Not once was I sort of talked down to or sort of, oh, are you all right, love? Can you do that or whatever? I was absolutely empowered from day one. And I think that set me off. And they said to me, when I asked exactly that question, how do you do it? And they just went, in fact, I'm going to tell you now what, Barbara Broccoli said something really beautiful that I just was so grateful for her to say. She said, children don't make your world smaller, they make it bigger. And it's so, so true. It is totally possible. But I think it's taught me to ask for what I need, unashamedly. And we will muddle through somehow. Somehow we will muddle through. But when I know the absolute answer, I'll get back to you.
Thank you. We'll have you back just for that answer.
Excellent. I'll come back with my pearls of wisdom.
How can we advance female empowerment within the industry? Not just the entertainment industry, but I guess just in life. How can we advance female empowerment?
Well, I think, one of the biggest ways is by championing one another. And, something lovely that Farheen said at the beginning of this was about, being younger but mentoring someone. And I think it's about recognizing that, young women or more experienced older women, we've all got a voice within this. We've all got experience to bring to the party. And I think it's about passing the mic and giving space to champion one another and lift one another up with us, because there is space for everyone. And in my experience, all of the positive times that I've had, quite often it comes down to exactly that: women holding one another up and championing one another. So that would be certainly one way I think we could do it.
I think I'll definitely agree. I strongly believe in this idea of girls supporting girls. I think having a support from a female is definitely really empowering. Like, we all have our own sort of experiences, things that we go through, things we achieve, but the support that we get from other females makes us feel so much more empowered. And I understand that not everyone is going to be happy for you, and that's absolutely fine. But the idea of girls supporting girls and sharing experiences, making one person feel so proud of something they've accomplished, is such a nice feeling. Like, even I've been feeling it recently, and I've understood that not everyone in my life right now is going to be with me, because I'm soon going to be leaving sixth form, and in a few months' time I'll be at university. I'm going to meet new people. Support will be different from some females that I meet to the females that I know right now. But definitely girls supporting girls, sharing experiences, being there for one another, and just knowing that you're not alone. I feel like a lot of females tend to feel that they're alone, but it's a good thing to think that you aren't alone, because it makes you aware of your surroundings and ensures that you are at your best, and that you can get through it no matter how hard it is, with the right people and the right support.
Wow, what answers. I would echo everything you wonderful ladies just said, that absolutely it's about championing each other, and it's about letting one another know that we're not alone, and that we're here, we've got each other's back, and we see one another. I think if there's anything over the last 12 months has made me realise as well, it's when we are able to connect and we are able to empathise with those around us and with other women, and we encourage and support each other, that we not only make that impact on like other individual women's lives, but we have this wider force that grows, and that's where it feels like systemic change happens, and those long-term changes, and we're able to give a platform for the individual women's girls' voices to be heard, but that becomes a much louder voice as well, and we see change. We see change, it happens, and when we work together we make that happen. So absolutely everything you've both said about girls supporting girls, women supporting women, and leading change in that respect.
Thank you all so much for being on this episode of Women Waves. It's been glorious having you all on. You are wonderful women, and I can't wait to see what you all get up to once we can get out there and do our thing. But thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Honestly, thank you. It's been joyful and amazing and truly inspiring.